Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You guys requested we tackle Alien, Isolation's Mission 8, Haven, and let me tell you, this one is something else.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about a game that's already notorious for its, relentless tension, right? The constant fear of being hunted.
Right.
But Haven, this mission, it takes that fear and kind of twists the knife, it flips the script in a way that really gets under your skin.
Yeah, it really messes with your expectations. Like, up to this point in the game, you've mostly been in the bowels of the Sevastopol station.
Right, all those claustrophobic corridors and industrial areas.
Exactly. But then, bam, Haven drops you into Solomon's Galleria.
And for those of you who haven't had the pleasure, imagine like a big, once bustling mall, apartments, shops, the whole shebang.
A little slice of normalcy.
Yeah.
Very, very wrong.
And that's where the real horror starts to sink in, I think.
Calm
because
down in there,
we
you
associate
android
these
fuck.
kinds of places, malls, shopping centers, with safety, right? Familiarity.
Exactly. It should be safe. So when you're being stalked through this environment that should feel safe, well, it just cranks up the fear factor, makes it way more personal.
Oh, for sure. I remember the first time I played Haven, it was unsettling in a way I wasn't quite expecting. Like, suddenly it wasn't just the xenomorph I was worried about.
Because that's the other thing, right? Haven doesn't just change the scenery. It throws a whole other curveball by switching up the threats you're facing.
Still got the alien, obviously. That never really goes away in this game.
No. Always lurking, just waiting for the perfect moment to ruin your day. But now you've got hostile human survivors to deal with too. Each with their own agenda, might I add.
Fun times.
And as if that wasn't enough, you've got the working Joes to contend with as
I can
well.
catch the next
Ugh,
car.
those things still give me the creeps.
Yeah, those creepy androids. Malfunctioning security guards, essentially. And completely unpredictable.
So now you're not just trying to avoid one major threat, you're juggling three, each of them requiring a totally different approach.
This whole new ball game.
It's like the game just kind of throws you in the deep end and says, all right, you've learned how to hide, now let's see you improvise.
Exactly. And this, with this three-pronged threat, that's where Alien Isolation really forces you to think tactically.
Oh, yeah.
You see, the working Joes, they rely primarily on sound and sight,
Right?
and that motion tracker you've been using to avoid the alien.
Right.
Well, now it becomes a tool to manipulate the Joes' patrol patterns.
Oh, interesting.
You can herd them into each other, or, even better, lead them right into the alien's path.
Ooh, that's just devious. I love it. Okay, so I do remember those moments of, how do I use this nightmare against that nightmare? It kept things interesting, that's for sure.
It really does. It adds this whole other layer of depth to the game. It's not just reacted anymore. You're strategizing, thinking a few steps ahead. You're using the environment and each enemy's weaknesses against them.
And speaking of weaknesses, this is where Mission 8 gets even more interested, I think. Because it's not just about new threats, right? It throws some new tools your way, too.
Oh, absolutely. Remember how limited your crafting options were up to this point?
Yeah.
Well, Haven opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Okay.
New blueprints, new materials, all geared toward giving you an edge in this much more complex environment.
Right.
Need to create a distraction. Craft a noisemaker.
Smart.
Need to slip past a Joe unnoticed. There's something for that, too.
Yeah, it's like the game knows it's turning up the heat, so it gives you a few extra options, but, subtly.
Right.
It's not going to hold your hand. You got to experiment, observe, figure out how these new tools can be used in this new environment.
Exactly, and that's where those aha moments come in that we always talk about, right?
Yeah.
That sense of discovery, that I figured it out, it's incredibly satisfying when it clicks.
Totally. Okay, but Haven isn't all just outsmarting killer robots and avoiding the alien, is it? There's a story here, and it kind of kicks into high gear during this mission.
Big time. You're on your way to the Colonial Marshal Bureau, remember? This potential beacon of hope in this whole mess.
Right.
And what you discover there, well, let's just say it's a real game changer.
No spoilers, but I remember my jaw practically hitting the floor when I first saw it. It just throws a whole other wrench into everything you thought you knew. Talk about a twist you don't see coming.
It's such a classic Alien move, though, right? Like, just when you think you're getting a handle on things, bam. But what makes it work so well here in Haven is how it plays on those themes of isolation and desperation.
Right.
You're trapped on this dying station, hunted by practically everything that moves.
And everyone's lost their minds.
Exactly. And you think, okay, maybe the Marshal Bureau, maybe that's the answer, but then, nope. It all goes very, very wrong.
And yet, something keeps you going. You got to see it through. It's Amanda Ripley. through and through.
Absolutely, and that's what I love about it, right? Mission 8, even with all its twists and turns and terrors, it reminds you that Alien, Isolation is about more than just jump scares. It's about resilience. It's about finding that inner strength to face the unknown, even when everything in you is screaming, run!
You know, we've talked about the setting, the enemies, the story, but what really gets me about Haven is the feeling it evokes. That constant tension, that sense of being hunted by, well, everything.
The environment itself becomes a threat.
Exactly.
Right.
Masterfully done.
Couldn't agree more. And that brings us back to you, listener. Because as you navigate the corridors of Solomon's Galleria, think about how the game uses this environment, these threats, to get under your skin. How does it make you feel? Because that, I think, is where Alien Isolation really shines.
Someone's in
It's an
here.
experience, that's for sure. One that'll stick with you long after you put the controller down. So if you're about to dive into Mission 8, Haven, buckle up.
Calm
Get ready
down
for a
in there, you
masterclass in
android
tension,
fuck.
resourcefulness, and the sheer will to survive. And hey, if you outsmart a working Joe or two along the way, savor that victory. You've earned it. Until next time, happy gaming.